Let me ask you something honest. How much money did you spend on your garden last year? Fertilizer bags, hose attachments, drip irrigation kits, soil amendments, compost bins, pest sprays. All of it stacked up on your porch or crammed into your garage, and at the end of the season you still had plants that struggled, yellowed, wilted, or just quietly gave up. Now walk outside right now. Or think about the last time you walked outside. And look at what is growing without any of that. Weeds pushing through cracked concrete, shrubs thriving in the median strip of a highway where nobody has watered or fertilized anything in living memory. Trees on rocky hillsides where the soil is basically gravel. Life everywhere, asking for nothing, producing abundantly. Here is the question nobody in the gardening industry wants you to ask. If nature can do that without a single bag of NPK fertilizer or a single drip of irrigation water, why are you being told that your food garden cannot? The answer is that you are being sold something. The fertilizer industry alone is worth over $200 billion globally. That industry needs you to believe that plants require their products to survive. The irrigation equipment market needs you to believe your garden will die without their systems. And every year, millions of home gardeners spend money they do not need to spend on inputs that mimic what healthy soil and well-chosen plants already provide for free. Today on EverGreen Home Living, we are dismantling that myth completely. I'm going to show you 15 crops. Real food crops, not ornamentals, not novelties. That not only survive without regular watering and synthetic fertilizer, but in many cases actively prefer to be left alone. Plants that get worse when you fuss over them. Plants that reward neglect with abundance. By the end of this video, you are going to know exactly which plants to grow, how they work, why they work, where to find them, and how to eat them. I will also tell you which of these 15 is most likely already growing in your yard right now as a so-called weed. And I am going to prove to you that you have been pulling out food. Stay through all 15 because I have grouped them in a way that lets you plan your actual garden layout while you watch. And stay for the science section in the middle, because once you understand why these plants do not need you, you will never look at your soil the same way again. Let us go. Group 1. The survival staples. These are the crops that have kept human beings alive during famines, droughts, and the kinds of agricultural failures that wiped out communities depending on fragile annual crops. They grow in poor soil. They grow in compacted ground. They grow where nothing else will. Chapter 1. Jerusalem artichoke, Helianthus tuberosus. The underground abundance engine. The Jerusalem artichoke, also called the sunchoke, is the plant that makes experienced gardeners laugh when beginners ask how to grow it. You do not grow Jerusalem artichokes. You contain them. The challenge is not getting them to survive. The challenge is stopping them from taking over. Drop a single tuber into almost any soil. Poor, compacted, rocky, clay-heavy, nutrient-depleted, and walk away. By fall, you will have a forest of 8 to 10-foot sunflower-like stalks and a mass of knobby underground tubers that has multiplied from your one starting tuber into dozens. Do this again next year without doing anything, and the colony gets larger. The year after that, larger still. Jerusalem artichokes are native to the central plains of North America, where they evolved in some of the most climatically challenging conditions on the continent. Hot, dry summers, cold winters, unpredictable rainfall. Their deep root systems pull moisture from soil layers that your garden hose never reaches. Their relationship with soil microorganisms means they mine nutrients from ground that would starve conventional crops. The tubers are genuinely delicious, sweet, nutty, and starchy like a cross between a water chestnut and a potato. They are very high in inulin fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. They are one of the most calorie-dense food crops per square foot of ground that you can grow in a temperate climate. And they require nothing from you except the decision to plant them in the first place. One fair warning that we give every time we mention this plant: start with small servings. That same inulin fiber that your gut bacteria love produces significant gas while your digestive system adjusts. Scale up slowly. They have been affectionately nicknamed fartichokes for a reason that you will understand immediately if you ignore this advice. Where to find them? Most garden centers sell tubers in spring. Online, burpee@burpee.com carries them reliably. The easiest source is a neighbor or local gardening group. Every sunchoke grower has far more than they need and will give them away freely. Lazy recipe. Slice thin, toss in oil and salt, Spread on a sheet pan, roast at 400 degrees for 25 minutes until golden and crispy. The nutty sweetness concentrates beautifully with roasting. Even confirmed sunchoke skeptics come around to this preparation. 2. Camas, Camassia quamash, Kashar, the prairie superfood that fed nations. Camas is a native North American bulb plant that produces stunning spikes of blue-purple flowers in spring and underground bulbs that were one of the most important staple foods for indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest and Great Plains for thousands of years. The Nez Perce, Shoshone, and many other nations built their seasonal food calendars around Camas harvest. Lewis and Clark reported that their expedition survived in significant part because they received camas from the Nez Perce when their food supplies ran out. Camas grows in meadows, prairies, and open ground with seasonal moisture. It tolerates wet springs and dry summers, which describes much of the temperate West. It requires no soil amendment, no fertilizer, no attention beyond keeping it from being shaded out by taller vegetation. Plant the bulbs once, and they naturalize, spreading gradually by seed and offsets into a permanent colony. The bulbs, when slow roasted for many hours, traditionally in pit ovens, taste sweet and rich, almost like a fig or a dark caramel. They were dried and stored for winter, traded between nations, and considered a food of great value. Critical identification note: this is genuinely important. Death camas, the Anticlea elegans or Zygodinus species, grows in the same habitat and looks similar when not in flower. When in flower, the difference is clear and absolute. Camas produces blue to purple flowers. Death camas produces creamy white to yellowish flowers. Never harvest camas bulbs without having seen the plant in flower first to confirm identification. This rule is non-negotiable. Blue or purple flowers, camas, edible. White or yellow flowers in the same habitat. Leave it entirely alone. Where to find it? Prairie Moon Nursery at prairiemoon.com carries Camassia quamash bulbs. Native plant nurseries in the western United States often carry them as well. Lazy recipe: wrap cleaned camas bulbs individually in foil with a tiny drizzle of olive oil and a pinch of salt. Place in a low oven, 275 degrees, for 3 to 4 hours. Unwrap and eat. The long, slow roasting converts the complex carbohydrates to sugars and produces a deeply sweet, almost jammy bulb unlike anything else you will find in a garden. Group 2. The weed winners. These are the plants that your neighbors are pulling out of their gardens every weekend while spending money on expensive vegetables at the farmer's market. The same plants. One gets bagged as yard waste and one gets sold for $4 a bunch. Dumbras Bras 3. Purslane, Portulaca oleracea, the omega-3 weed. We have covered purslane before on this channel, but it earns its place on this list again specifically for its drought performance. Purslane is a succulent. Its thick, fleshy leaves and stems store water internally, which is exactly why it thrives during the dry spells that kill conventional garden plants. It does not need your irrigation. It brought its own. It sprawls along the soil in summer heat, growing faster when you water less, producing those thick, reddish stems and small, rounded, succulent leaves. It is one of the best natural ground covers for suppressing other weeds around your vegetable plants, and while it covers your soil, it is simultaneously producing food you can eat today. More omega-3 fatty acids than almost any other leafy plant on Earth. More vitamin C than spinach. More magnesium than most vegetables. This is not a minor nutritional footnote. Purslane is genuinely exceptional food that grows itself in conditions that would stress conventional crops. Where to find it? It is almost certainly already in your vegetable garden. For intentional cultivation, Baker Creek at rareseeds.com carries golden purslane with larger, milder leaves than the wild type. Identification: purslane's thick, succulent leaves and reddish stems are distinctive. The critical look-alike is spurge. Purslane stems produce clear juice when broken. Spurge produces milky white sap. Clear, eat it. White, walk away. That one test is all you need. Lazy recipe: toss fresh purslane with halved cherry tomatoes, sliced cucumber, red onion, olive oil, lemon juice, and salt. This Greek-style salad has been made in exactly this form for 2,000 years, and the crunchy succulence of purslane in it is genuinely wonderful. Nenerics 4. Lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album. The volunteer that outperforms your spinach. If you have a vegetable garden, lamb's quarters is already growing in it. It emerges every spring as a self-seeded volunteer and produces nutritious greens from late spring through early fall with zero input from you. More vitamin A than spinach, more calcium than milk by volume, more iron than any leafy green you will find in a grocery store. And it grows itself in the same conditions that would stress conventional spinach to the point of bolting. Lamb's quarters loves poor, disturbed soil. It tolerates drought far better than spinach. It self-seeds so reliably that once you have it forever without replanting. Stop pulling it, start harvesting it instead. Critical identification, the one we repeat because it matters. Lamb's quarters has smooth, slightly diamond-shaped leaves with a whitish, powdery coating on the underside that wipes off when you rub it. Lamb's ear has thick, fuzzy, silvery gray leaves that feel like soft felt. Smooth green with white powder that wipes off. Lamb's quarters, your food. Thick, fuzzy, silver gray, feels like velvet. Lamb's ear, put it down. They are not even from the same plant family, but the names cause genuine confusion, and we will keep clarifying it on this channel for as long as it takes. Where to find it? Your garden. If not, Baker Creek at rareseeds.com and Strictly Medicinal Seeds at strictlymedicinalseeds.com both carry seed. Lazy recipe. Sauté a big double handful in olive oil with 1 clove of minced garlic and a pinch of salt for 2 minutes until wilted. Squeeze lemon over the top. It tastes like smooth, mild spinach, better than spinach, and took 3 minutes to prepare from a plant that grew itself. 5. Dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. The deepest roots in your yard. We keep coming back to dandelion on this channel because it keeps earning it. For today's specific topic, the relevant fact is this. Dandelion taproots reach up to 15 feet deep into the earth. 15 feet. Your garden hose moistens maybe the top 12 inches of soil. Dandelion is drinking from a water table your irrigation system will never touch. This is why dandelions are thriving when your conventional garden plants are wilting in a heat wave. They are not tough. They are simply connected to resources that your other plants cannot access. And in the process of driving those roots deep, they fracture compacted soil layers, bring up minerals from deep soil horizons and deposit them in their leaves. And when those leaves fall and decompose, they enrich the surface soil that your other plants grow in. Dandelions are not just surviving without your help. They are actively improving your soil while they do it. Where to find it? Everywhere. For culinary varieties with larger, more tender leaves, Baker Creek at rareseeds.com carries thick-leaved dandelion. Lazy recipe. Young dandelion leaves tossed with hot bacon dressing, rendered bacon fat, apple cider vinegar, a little honey, poured warm over the leaves, completely neutralizes the bitterness and creates one of the oldest and most satisfying salads in American cooking. Group 3. The desert stars. These are the plants that were specifically shaped by evolution to produce food in conditions where water is scarce and soil is minimal. They are not just drought tolerant, they are drought adapted. They perform better in dry conditions than in wet ones. 6. Prickly pear cactus, Opuntia species, the edible architecture of zero-water gardening. Prickly pear is not just a drought-tolerant plant. It is a water storage system that happens to produce food. The thick, flat pads that make up its structure are essentially living reservoirs, filled with a mucilaginous gel that stores water absorbed during rainfall and releases it slowly to the plant during dry periods. In climates with even minimal seasonal rainfall, prickly pear needs no supplemental irrigation. Ever. Both the pads and the fruit are edible and have been central to the cuisine and survival of peoples across the American Southwest and Mexico for thousands of years. The fruit, called tunas, ripen in late summer to deep red, purple, or yellow depending on variety, with a flavor that is sweet, refreshing, and gently tropical. The young pads, called nopales, are harvested in spring when they emerge tender and green, the spines removed, and cooked as a vegetable with a clean, slightly citrusy flavor. Prickly pear also fixes nitrogen in its root zone through mycorrhizal associations, improves the soil around it, and provides habitat for beneficial insects. It is one of the most complete zero-maintenance food plants available in temperate to subtropical climates. Where to find it? Prickly pear is native to the Americas and grows wild across the south and southwest. For intentional cultivation, Strictly Medicinal Seeds at strictlymedicinalseeds.com carries seed. Many garden centers in warmer climates sell established pads. In colder climates, look for cold-hardy Opuntia humifusa, which survives temperatures well below zero. Identification. Prickly pear is unmistakable. Flat oval pads covered in clusters of spines, producing yellow flowers and red or purple fruits. There are no dangerous lookalikes. Exercise care when harvesting. Long kitchen tongs and thick gloves are your friends. Lazy recipe. No pal scramble. Slice young prickly pear pads into thin strips after removing spines. Do this carefully with tongs and a sharp knife. Sauté in a dry pan over medium-high heat until the natural mucilage cooks off and the strips become slightly dry and lightly browned, about 8 minutes. Add beaten eggs and scramble together. Season with salt, cumin, and a squeeze of lime. This is a breakfast eaten across Mexico every single morning that most Americans have never tasted, made from a plant that requires absolutely nothing from you to produce. 7. Tepary bean, Phaseolus acutifolius. The desert legume that feeds itself. Tepary beans were cultivated by the Tohono O'odham and other peoples of the Sonoran Desert for 5,000 years in conditions that would destroy any conventional bean crop. Extreme heat, rocky, mineral-poor soil, rainfall measured in inches per year. And tepary beans responded by producing reliably year after year in exactly these conditions. They are higher in protein than common beans. They have a lower glycemic index. They are exceptionally high in calcium and iron. And they fix their own nitrogen. Like all legumes, tepary beans form a partnership with soil bacteria called rhizobia that pulls nitrogen from the air and converts it into a form the plant and surrounding soil can use. Every tepary bean plant you grow is simultaneously fertilizing the ground it grows in. They are self-fertilizing, drought-proof, and more nutritious than the beans you currently buy at the store. Where to find it? NativeSeeds/search at nativeseeds.org is the definitive source and the organization most directly connected to the indigenous communities that preserved these varieties. Baker Creek at rareseeds.com carries them as well. Lazy recipe. Soak overnight in cold water. Drain and cover with fresh water. Bring to a boil and simmer for 90 minutes to 2 hours with a clove of garlic and a pinch of cumin. Season with salt only in the last 20 minutes. Ladle into a bowl. Drizzle with olive oil and squeeze a lime over the top. Serve with warm tortillas. 5,000 years of perfection in a bowl. 8. Amaranth, Amaranthus species. The grain that runs on sunlight. A lone amaranth uses a photosynthetic process called C4 carbon fixation, the same pathway used by corn and sugarcane, that makes it dramatically more efficient at converting sunlight into food than most garden plants. In practical terms, this means amaranth produces more nutrition per drop of water and per square foot of poor soil than almost any other crop you can grow. It thrives in heat. It tolerates drought. It grows in soil that would slow down or kill conventional grain crops. The dramatic seed heads, in red, gold, and green, contain seeds with more protein than wheat, more calcium than milk, and all 9 essential amino acids. The leaves are nutritious spinach-like greens, harvestable from the same plant before the seeds mature. Where to find it? Baker Creek at rareseeds.com has one of the best amaranth selections anywhere, including specific grain varieties. Seed Savers Exchange at seedsavers.org carries heritage varieties worth preserving. Lazy recipe: simmer 1 cup of amaranth seeds in 3 cups of water for 20 minutes until thick and creamy. Stir in salt, a drizzle of honey, and a splash of milk. Top with fresh fruit and crunchy popped amaranth, made by toasting dry seeds in a hot, dry pan for 15 seconds. This ancient grain porridge costs pennies and contains a complete protein profile. Group 4. The Perennial Powerhouses. These plants do not just survive without inputs. They build on themselves year after year. You plant once, they return bigger, they spread. They produce more food every year than the year before, without you doing anything. 9. Sea kale, Crambe maritima. 20 years of free vegetables. Sea kale grows on rocky, windswept European coastlines in pure gravel and sand. It has been doing this since before human beings were farming. The deep carrot-like taproot it develops, sometimes reaching 6 feet down, accesses moisture and minerals that no surface irrigation or fertilizer application could replicate. It lives for 20 years or more, and gets more productive with every passing season. The blanched spring shoots it produces when covered to exclude light are sweet, tender, and delicate. Nothing like the aggressively cruciferous flavor you might expect, covered with an upturned pot in late winter. The emerging shoots stay white and mild, producing what has historically been considered a luxury spring vegetable in English kitchen gardens. Where to find it? Strictly Medicinal Seeds at strictlymedicinalseeds.com, and Thompson and Morgan both carry sea kale. Start from crowns if you can find them. It establishes faster, and you lose a year or two waiting for a seed-grown plant to reach productive size. Lazy recipe. Steam blanched shoots for 4 minutes. Serve with melted butter and lemon. That is genuinely the whole preparation, the same way it has been eaten for 300 years in English kitchen gardens, and it is that simple because it does not need improvement. 10. Skirret, Sium cicerum. The emperor's root vegetable skirret was so prized in ancient Rome that Emperor Tiberius demanded it as tribute payment. A perennial root vegetable producing sweet, parsnip-like roots from a crown that returns and expands every single year without replanting. Poor soil is fine. Dry conditions are manageable. Once established, skirret asks for essentially nothing. The flavor is genuinely sweet, almost candy sweet for a root vegetable, which is why children respond well to it, and why it was so valued before refined sugar became widely available. The natural sugars that make it taste this way are precisely what the plant manufactures from sunlight and soil without any sugar amendment from you. Where to find it? Baker Creek at rareseeds.com carries skirret seed. Seed Savers Exchange at seedsavers.org is another reliable source. Lazy recipe. Roast cleaned roots tossed in olive oil and salt at 400 degrees for 25 minutes until caramelized at the edges. The natural sugar content means they brown and sweeten beautifully in the oven. Taste like the best roasted parsnip you have ever had, but sweeter. 11. Egyptian walking onion. The onion that plants itself. We have covered the walking onion before on this channel, and it belongs here specifically for one reason. It is the most literally self-sufficient food plant in this entire list. It does not just survive without your help. It actively plants itself. The topset bulblets that form at the top of the stalks weigh down the plant, bend it to the ground, and root themselves a few inches away from the mother plant, expanding the colony without you ever touching it. No irrigation needed once established. No fertilizer needed. No replanting needed. Ever. One purchase produces a permanent, ever-expanding food source that provides green tops like chives, underground bulbs like shallots, and topset clusters with a sweet, concentrated onion flavor across every single season. Where to find it? Baker Creek at rareseeds.com, Southern Exposure Seed Exchange at southernexposure.com, and Etsy sellers who grow them. They always have surplus. Lazy recipe. Smash 6 topset bulblets flat. Sauté in butter until golden and crispy on both sides. Season with flaky salt. Use as a finishing topping on anything savory. 2 minutes of cooking from a plant that did everything else itself. 12. Good King Henry, Blightum bonus henricus. The medieval triple crop. Good King Henry has been producing food without human intervention in the gardens and waste ground of Europe since the Iron Age. Spring, asparagus-like shoots. Summer, spinach-like leaves. Fall, quinoa-like seeds. 3 different harvests from one perennial plant that comes back every year, spreads slowly by seed, and improves in productivity with age. It was grown in medieval monastery gardens precisely because it required so little labor while giving so much food. Monks understood efficiency in a way that the modern gardening industry does not want you to understand. Where to find it? Baker Creek at rareseeds.com and Seed Savers Exchange at seedsavers.org. Both carry seed. Lazy recipe. Steam spring shoots like asparagus for 3 minutes with butter and salt. Sauté summer leaves like spinach with garlic for 2 minutes. Cook fall seeds in salted water like quinoa for 15 minutes. 1 plant, 3 seasons, 0 replanting. Inianji yanda, Cringemenius, 13. Sorrel, French sorrel. The lemon herb that never stops. French sorrel comes back every spring from its root system, spreads into a generous clump over years, and produces lemon-sharp, vitamin C-rich leaves from early spring through late fall. Drought does not stop it. Poor soil does not slow it. Heat does not bother it. It grows in the same ground year after year without amendment and produces a harvest that restaurants charge premium prices for, because the intense lemony flavor of fresh sorrel is genuinely distinctive and genuinely valuable. Where to find it? Richter's Herbs at richters.com and Baker Creek at rareseeds.com both carry French sorrel. Lazy recipe. Wilt a handful of sorrel ribbons in butter for 30 seconds, add a splash of cream and a pinch of salt. Pour over fish, chicken, or pasta. 4-minute restaurant-grade sauce from a perennial that has been producing in your garden for free for years. Group 5. The self-sufficient groundwork crops. These last 2 plants do something that goes beyond simply surviving without inputs. They actively create the conditions that make everything around them grow better. They are not just independent, they are generous. 14. Comfrey, Symphytum officinale. The deep miner that feeds your whole garden. Comfrey produces a taproot that reaches 6 feet deep or more into the subsoil, mining minerals, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, nitrogen, from soil layers that nothing else touches. It brings these minerals up and concentrates them in its large, fast-growing leaves. When you cut those leaves and lay them on the surface of your garden as mulch, those deep soil minerals become available to shallow-rooted plants. Comfrey is a biological fertilizer factory, and it runs entirely on sunlight and deep soil access. It also has significant medicinal history. Allantoin, the same compound we discussed in plantain, appears in comfrey at high concentrations and gives the plant its traditional name, knitbone, used for centuries to accelerate the healing of bruises, sprains, and minor wounds when applied topically as a poultice or salve. Do not eat comfrey internally in large amounts or regularly. It contains purolizidine alkaloids that are hard on the liver with long-term internal consumption. External use and use as garden mulch are entirely safe. Where to find it? Strictly Medicinal Seeds at strictlymedicinalseeds.com carries Bocking 14, the most productive sterile variety that will not spread aggressively by seed. Horizon Herbs at horizonherbs.com is another excellent source. Garden use. Cut comfrey leaves 4 to 6 times per season. Lay them directly on your garden beds as mulch. As they decompose, they release the minerals they have mined from deep soil, feeding your other plants for free. This is dynamic accumulation, and it is one of the most powerful things you can do for your garden at zero cost. Chaperakis 15. Stinging Nettle, Urtica dioica. The most complete free crop in nature. We close with stinging nettle because it closes the circle of everything we have discussed today. Stinging nettle is food, medicine, soil improver, and companion plant simultaneously. It grows in the most neglected, disturbed, nutrient-poor ground. It accumulates nitrogen, iron, potassium, and calcium in its leaves. It attracts beneficial insects. Decomposed nettle improves soil structure measurably. It has been eaten, used medicinally, and used to improve garden beds across every culture in the temperate world for as long as people have been keeping records. We covered its nutritional and medicinal value in detail in previous videos. Today, the specific point is that stinging nettle represents everything this list is built around. A plant that does not need you, that provides for itself and for the ecosystem around it, that produces genuine value. Food, medicine, soil health, entirely on its own terms. Where to find it? Strictly Medicinal Seeds at strictlymedicinalseeds.com. Horizon Herbs at horizonherbs.com. Lazy recipe. Steep young nettle tops in just below boiling water, covered for 10 minutes. The sting neutralizes in seconds. Add lemon and honey. Drink. This is the spring tonic that kept entire villages healthy after long winters of stored food, and it costs you absolutely nothing. The science that explains all of this. Before I send you off to your garden, I want to give you the 45 seconds of science that makes sense of everything you just watched, because once you understand this, you will see your soil differently for the rest of your life. Under your feet right now, assuming you have not destroyed it with synthetic fertilizers and herbicides, is a network so complex and so intelligent that scientists have only begun to understand it in the last 30 years. It is called the mycorrhizal network. Fungi threads thinner than a human hair connect the root systems of plants across your entire garden, trading nutrients, water, and chemical signals between them. A plant with access to this network can draw water from soil zones it cannot physically reach, access minerals from rock particles it cannot dissolve, and receive warnings from neighboring plants about pest activity. Every single plant on today's list evolved to work with this network. Their deep taproots, dandelion's 15 feet, skirret's anchor root, sea kale's 6-foot probe, are not just searching for water and minerals. They are expanding the reach of this network deeper into the earth than shallow-rooted annual crops can go. When you dump synthetic fertilizer on your garden, you do not just feed your plants. You feed the wrong organisms in the soil, disrupting the balance that maintains this network. When you use herbicides, you damage the fungal threads directly. This is why gardens that are chemically managed become progressively more dependent on chemical inputs. The natural infrastructure that would allow plants to manage themselves has been dismantled. The plants on today's list are not magical. They are simply working with a system that has existed for 450 million years. Your job is not to replace that system. Your job is to stop disrupting it. How to start here is the actual plan. Not a complicated plan. Not a plan that requires a weekend of work or a trip to a garden supply store. Pick 2 plants from today's list that match your climate and the space you have. If you are in a dry, hot climate, start with prickly pear and tepary beans. If you are in a temperate zone with a shady corner, start with skirret and good King Henry. If you have a sunny, neglected patch anywhere in your yard, plant Jerusalem artichokes and walk away. Stop pulling the volunteers that are already working for you. If purslane is in your garden, leave some of it. If lamb's quarters is coming up between your beds, harvest it instead of pulling it. If dandelion is in your lawn, let it do what it does. And then do less. Water less. Fertilize less. Disturb the soil less. Give the mycorrhizal network room to do what it has been doing since before humans existed. The most radical thing you can do in a modern garden is trust the system that was already there. Now I have one question for you, and I genuinely want to know the answer. Which of these 15 crops is already growing in your yard right now as a weed? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and your answer might be the thing that makes someone else look at their garden completely differently today.